What's up,
What's
everybody?
up, everybody?
Welcome back to the Mindset Mogul podcast. We are your hosts, Josh Jacobs and Bradley Mora, and we are back with another episode. Man, it feels good to be back. I don't know. After going a few days without one, it's like therapy for me, man. Especially today, I needed this. So very grateful to be back here today, and very grateful to be talking to you. What about you, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I couldn't agree more. This pod is it's like a fresh start every time. You know, I think there's like a whole concept in meditation where it's like begin again, which is just, it's a really freeing topic where it's like no matter what, you can just restart in any given moment and make a change. And this pod is just a constant reminder of that. Even small deviation like this brings right back. And I'd say coming out of these pods, I'm always storming ahead just in terms of like mood, general perspective. And it doesn't take long for your brain to start to kick you back into its, whatever the baseline evolutionary framework is for thinking about things. But the pod always pulls me right back out. So yeah, grateful to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree, man. I totally agree. And today we are doing an accountability pod. And we did this last week, but when you guys are listening or watching or whatever, if you want to do these and participate with us, feel free to comment on the YouTube channel and take accountability with us for all the decisions that you made in your last week. And it would be awesome to see that engagement from you guys and kind of participate together. So that being said, before we jump into it, I just want to say, if you do get value from today's episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment with your question or your accountability. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Google, one of those platforms, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. And we would really, really appreciate that. So let's jump into it. I got a lot to talk about this week, but what about you, bro? I know you just traveled again. Traveling is the hardest thing in the world for me. So
yeah, and it's traveling for fun. Like we're going to a day-long concert essentially with friends. And so this weekend is about I call it risk mitigation. Like, how do I go into these situations and not still have fun and do the thing and go experience the thing for what it is versus like trying to be so austere or be such a hardo that you're not really even enjoying yourself. I'd like to believe that there's a future state where I can like go to a day-long concert type thing and be totally sober. Candidly, I'm just not there yet. It's just kind of an environment where like drinking a little bit, potentially like taking a weed gummy, like those things just like still like enhance the experience. And so in situations where those types of things enhance the experience, it's always challenging when we've been talking about this concept of being 100 and like those things are naturally at odds with that, just consuming things that are intoxicating. And so I would say overall, though, the weekend, like a former version of myself on like the Friday night we were there, like we went to dinner and then we went home and we went to bed where like a bunch of people like went out and were out till 2 or 3 a.m. and we just decided not to do that. And so I would say even like a year ago, I would have absolutely been out till 3 a.m. and that would have just been like, it would have just been a tough start to like what was going to be another long day the next day. And then it's like, I guarantee you, I wouldn't sound like I sound like today, which is like I have energy and I feel good.
You sound great.
That decision was made on Friday, really, is what it was. And so that was a good like single moment of winning for me. And then Saturday, I'd say it was like same type of thing. There was definitely some sort of like after party after the show. Like we went home and we went to bed after like the bus dropped us off from the thing. And so it's not perfect, but I would say the way it was handled is like light years better than how I would used to just keep going. We call it going to a secondary location. I stole that from a comedian called John Mulaney. Nothing good ever happens at a secondary location. You go to the thing and then you go home. But if you go to the thing and then you go to a secondary location, that's trouble. I think he was referring to like kidnappings, but like it's the same. That's what we call it
sure.
for when we're doing social things. So that, and then the week leading up to going, I would say I was in my good habits in terms of like just generally eating Whole30 paleo, went to work out every day, but I wouldn't say that I in like the absence of challenges, like could I go back and tell you how I tracked for the whole week? The answer is no. And that's fine. But I think, and I want to hear from you first, but for the next 30 days, having a targeted, measured regimen is what I'm going to do, because I'm craving that structure that I had in the 75 hard. And so absent of doing that again, I'm picking something that I know if I do these, 7 things that I'm going to be at 100. And I think starting for 30 days feels very achievable.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you had a great weekend. You sound great today. You're definitely got the energy. So that's awesome. I had a very interesting week. Last week was like a very, I don't even know, a very eventful / life-changing week for me, I feel like. Number one, I'm coming up to the last few days of 75 hard phase 1, which has been way more challenging than I've done 75 hard, the first 75 hard, 3 times. And it's been great every single time. And I've learned a ton, and it's totally changed my life. And this time was different because phase 1 adds 8 critical tasks, a 5-minute cold shower, and 10 minutes of dedicated visualization. So on top of all the regular 75 hard tasks, you are adding 8 additional critical things that you're getting done every single day. So on top of all the other things you're doing, you're getting a lot more done productively. The cold exposure is amazing. And the visualization has been really, really cool for me and been able to give me a lot of clarity in, I struggled with it in the beginning, to be honest with you, until I actually created a vision board. And when I actually created a vision board, it took me a while to do that, but then I started to actually be able to see what I want. And aside from that, we had this podcast with Ruben, which is probably the last episode right before this one, if you guys listen to it. And that just was one of the most inspiring conversations I've ever had in my entire life. And I just still feel fired up. I rewatched it and like timestamped it for clips. And I was like fired up, ready to jump out of my seat the whole time again, re-listening to it. So that was really, really cool. And aside from that, the other thing is I've just been listening a lot to this dude, Wes Watson, who I've been talking to you about, and his messages have just been really resonating with me. So all that to say that last week, I feel like I made a ton of progress in just what I'm doing in my life and implemented a lot of the stuff that Ruben talks about, which we'll talk about in a second. But long story short, I decided last week that if we, like you said, we talk about this concept of 100, of being 100. And I have a lot of goals and dreams. I'm ambitious. There's a lot of things that I want to achieve in my life. And I've started to realize that if I want to achieve all these things, I have absolutely no choice but to be the 100% version of myself. And the 100% version of myself is somebody who, as Wes Watson says, create the man you admire and get in every way and give that man to the world. And the 100% version of myself has a lot of habits that I have to leave behind. And probably one of those the biggest habit of all is smoking weed. I have been a stoner since I was 14 years old. Aside from the few stints I did in jail and rehab, which we've talked about on the pod before, I have smoked weed every single day for the last 17 years. And I love weed. It's been my best friend for a very long time. It's helped me in every single emotional environment I could possibly have been in. It's helped me elevate. It's helped me get lower, all these different things, right? And I just decided weed is the amount that I smoke, at least, because I smoke every day, is suppressing my drive. And it's not helping. Maybe it calms me down in times when I'm very flustered or whatever, which is when I use it the most. And it helps me sleep and all those things. But what it does more than anything is suppress my drive. And it suppresses me being at 100. So I just made the decision to, I quit. I don't want to say quit because that's assuming I'm never going to smoke weed again for the rest of my life, which who knows. But all I know is I'm not going to smoke weed today or tomorrow or whatever. So today marks, I think, 1 week since I've smoked. And man, it's crazy. I started remembering my dreams again. Like I have probably remembered 3 dreams in the last 10 years, because when you smoke a bunch right before you go to bed, you don't remember your dreams, or at least I don't. So I've started remembering dreams again. and I know I'm rambling and going on and on right now, but this was like a major realization for me that I needed to be the most clear version of myself possible. So not smoking. Aside from that, implemented a bunch of the stuff that Ruben talked about. I started repeating these affirmations to myself every single morning. I created the vision board. And even now, like when I'm doing my visualization, I'll read one of my affirmations and then I'll pause and I'll think about what that looks like. And then once I feel like I have a solid grasp on what that looks like, I'll go to the next affirmation. I'll read that one and then I'll visualize exactly what that looks like. And then as soon as I have a good grasp on that, I'll move into the next one. And I'm telling you, like, it's been a week of doing this and I just feel like I feel like unstoppable, bro. I can't explain it, but I feel unstoppable. And I'm very, very excited to see, what happens over the next 5 years if I can live at this version of me for the majority of time.
Woo! Let's go, dude.
So I know you said you go for it.
I was just going to say that is like going from not doing something for a week that you've done for a decade is crazy. Like that's a wild habitual change. And you're in the first week of doing it. I think just that is like extremely commendable to identify that and make that call and then just do it. And so I think you're in this, it's a very cool place to be at the beginning of a journey where you make a major change like that. And the fact you already seen that some physiological changes, very obvious ones, the dreaming piece of it, which means you're probably going to get more quality sleep than you have historically, which will just be another compounding impact.
Oh, dude, my energy levels are, they're insane right now. I think I told you this, but I had friends come over. I have a buddy in town, and I had a bunch of friends over at my house, and everybody's taking shots, everybody's smoking weed, and I'm fucking doing push-ups and pull-ups the whole time because I got all this energy I got to get out, and I'm not going to drink and I'm not going to smoke. So what am I going to do? I'm going to freaking get it in, and it felt amazing. But I agree with you, dude. The energy has been insane.
That's wild. That's like what a gift to give yourself to feel like you have to go do push-ups and pull-ups. Like that is just a very, very good sign for your physical condition that you're drawn into doing that. I think it's worth you talking a little bit about being in that social situation and making the decision to be kind of socially awkward. I don't know. That's probably a bad way to put it, but like not do the thing that everyone else is doing. Just do whatever it is that you want to do. And then the situation crafted itself around you. And then we're here today. I'm sure you're still friends with all of them. Like, how did that situation go? Like, what were there mental hurdles along the way? What did that look like for you? Because I think that actually, it's an example of how unstoppable of a version you are in right now. But I think there are probably a few places, and I know this firsthand, where being committed in a situation like that is actually, it's the hardest thing to do when you're in a social setting with other people who are essentially giving you permission and validation to do the shitty thing, or not the shitty thing, but do the thing that you would normally do in that situation. And it sounds like you didn't give into that the slightest.
Yeah, I think, it's funny because earlier in the day, that day, I was telling my wife, Greta, I was like, this is like a scenario where maybe I would smoke because I'm with a bunch of like my buddies coming in from out of town. I'm with a bunch of my old friends. Like it's a Saturday night. What's the big deal? Whatever. Or Friday night. And if I don't do it again the next day, who cares if it's just one night? And I'm giving myself all the excuses, you know what I mean? And then I just started going back to, well, what would the man I admire do? The man I admire would be strong enough to have an amazingly fun time without needing those vices. That's another thing. It's like, I've been really trying this whole last week. I've been really trying to think. I always talk about, well, I want to have a drink in this scenario, or I want to smoke in this scenario. But I've really been trying to come to the conclusion that how do I eliminate the desire in general to even have these vices? And I think a lot of it comes back to what we always talk about, like having a strong enough why. Why do I want to do these things? And when I have a stronger why of why I don't want to do these things, it makes it easier not to do them. So when I was having all those excuses, telling Greta, should I smoke? Should I not? Blah, blah, blah. I came to the conclusion that I don't want to break this streak. It's actually a challenge for me to see if I will still have a good time without smoking in this environment, without drinking in this environment. And ultimately, I wanted the energy the next morning. I wanted all these things. So I didn't smoke, and nobody knew that I quit smoking weed. Everybody came over and they're like ready to smoke. They're ready to drink. I'm like, well, I'm not drinking. I'm on 75 hard. And I actually stopped smoking too. And, it turned into like people started doing pull-ups with me and doing push-ups with me and working out with me. And even though he was drinking and smoking, it was like, we were still hanging out and we still did all this stuff. We had a great time. It was not weird at all, man. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. Just, I felt great the next day. Like, I felt very accomplished because, as you said, it's something I've done my entire adult life. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm going to be a new person.
Yeah, dude, I don't think you should take it lightly, like how significant of a move that is. It's just the perfect example of I just don't think there's a harder place to say no to things. It's at your house. All your friends came over. People didn't even know beforehand, so you had to like prepare for that conversation.
They're smoking so much my weed. They're using my bong. Weed.
It would have been so much easier and so easy to open the door for yourself and say it is fine, because you know what? Like, it would have been fine, but it would have been. It would have been fine. It would have been It would have been fine, but it would have been a loss for the identity that I'm trying to build. 100%, right? It would have been a loss in that regard. Like, is it going to materially? Which, yeah, it's not that maybe you would have been like 5% slower the next day, which I'm sure you could have overcome with ease because you're already operating at a high level. But I don't know what you would need to do to reverse. It's not even that, like, I don't know how much would have like reversed the identity building, but you would have lost an opportunity for a massive gain, because I see that as just like you just skip hopped like 5 steps by choosing what is, I think, the hardest scenario to maintain that identity, and just took it and did it and reframed it. And then we're the person in that scenario. So it was actually just this huge opportunity that you didn't let slide through your fingers to go do things that you normally do, but under new conditions and a new identity. And so, because it's easy, as I'm saying all this out loud, it's always so easy for me to keep the identity during the week when I'm by myself, going to the gym and making my own food and doing everything with zero external influence telling me the otherwise. Like, when your environment is set up for success, you're generally set up for success. But the real indication that you've made a change is when you put yourself in the pressure cooker. And that's what that was. And so, dude, congratulations on having a weekend like that, because I honestly think how much harder does it get? And then where do you go from here? Like, you only have, like, the sky is the limit once you start bursting through old situations like that with this new sense of identity. So I'm excited to see where you go from here, because I think that that's a massive change made. All of that on top of, like, you stopped smoking weed a week ago. So call it a big week and a big weekend for Josh.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And now I'm battling with, like, I want to hear about the new things that you're going to do. And now I'm just battling with what I'm going to do on this. I'm going on a honeymoon for 2 weeks, and yep. I'm battling between, like, okay, well, it's my honeymoon. I want to indulge. I want to do all these things. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy myself. And I plan to 100%. But I also want to keep in line with the identity that I'm trying to build, even in a situation like that. So I don't know what's going to happen yet. I don't know what I'm going to do. And we'll see how I am when I'm there. But all I know is that my number one goal is, no matter how much I eat, if I drink wine, whatever I do not want to gain weight while I'm there. So I'm going to try to stick up with, my workouts and all the stuff. And we'll see what happens. I could come back to you and tell you it was terrible, I could come back to you and say it was the greatest thing ever. But I mean, it's going to be great no matter what. I just mean for my own health. But we'll see how it goes. What are you planning on doing the next 30 days?
So I use what you're doing as a fair amount of inspiration, but this is an important one. And this is something we took from Ruben, but I'm going to have every day for the next 30-day planned ahead of time. Like whether or not I keep to that schedule, I'm flexible on that. But the act of setting it up every day ahead of time, I'm going to try and do a week at a time. But before every day, the night before, review, here's what the plan for the day is tomorrow. And then track against how I actually like execute on those things and see where am I just wasting time where like I don't think that I am, or where do I just like abandon intentionality throughout the day because I know that it happens, but I don't really pay attention to it. And so setting that up for 30 days, I think will lead to massive changes. And I know it can be done. I'm seeing you do it. I saw Ruben do it. Like there's no excuse not to go put that into play immediately. Cold exposure daily. And so that can either be 5 minutes in the shower, or I go into the San Francisco Bay and do plunges in there. So it's either or each of the days, at least 1 hour workout every day. And then morning sunlight, visualization, meditation, and then eating paleo for the 30 days. So no alcohol during that time period. And then the one thing with visualization, you were just talking about this, but the affirmation, I'm going to do affirmations with visualization. Cause I think the reason I like use visualization when I have, like, I can't talk about it super openly on this at the moment, but I have some like business things at the end of the week that like, I'm very like, I know exactly what I want the outcome of those situations to be. So visualizing those is super simple because it's just like black and white. It's a yes or no at the end of a conversation type of thing. But when it comes to the bigger picture stuff in your life and you like haven't brought clarity to those things, and I think via affirmations, then also I should add vision. I'm going to go through the vision board exercise by tomorrow and have that built, like a V1 of that, like you do, because I could totally see how that just, it takes the literal visual piece out of the process. And also the affirmations are just this like guiding principle for what you're visualizing on, because over time, I'm like, oh, what do I want? What exactly am I aiming for? What am I supposed to be visualizing on? And so in the absence of like this very clear, like I'm visualizing to perform highly at this like specific thing, which I've been good at and diligent about in the past, this is just bigger picture. And so it takes like some zeroing in that I recognize I need to do. And yeah, candidly, after seeing you do it, I'm like, okay, I have no fucking excuse. Literally someone showed me how to do it. And so I'm going to be kicking that off. And then, yeah, at least 30 days of that, which I'm sure will then turn into a lifetime of it. But let's start with the 30 days.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I'm excited. I don't know, man. It's a feeling, it's a feeling. And I encourage you guys, if you're listening. Isn't that what
we're all chasing all the time, just in general, is just the feeling. So if that's what you got, like, I'm buying what you're selling.
That agreed. And I just want to say again, thanks to Ruben for that last pod that just really inspired both of us to do that. So I would say if you guys are listening to this, try implementing it yourself. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you like any of these things that we're doing. And I don't know, anything else before we wrap up for today?
No, I think we're at the 23-minute MJ mark. And so I think it's probably a good place to wrap. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Well, if you got value out of today's episode, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a comment with your question if you want us to answer it on the pod. You can also email that into support@mindsetmogul.com. If you're listening on Apple, Google, Spotify, follow us there. Leave us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. And with that being said, we will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care, everybody.